Hello, Pravin.
Hello, Philippe.
How are you?
I am fantastic. Thank you for allowing me to be here with you in one of my most beautiful and favorite cities in the world.
Thank you so much. We are so happy to be with us today in Bordeaux for this interview in occasion for the in Retina Congress will take place in Saint-Emilion next week. So, Pravin, first of all, can you tell a little about you, your background, and what led you to ophthalmology, please?
Well, I was in a pretty typical academic practice, and then I went to private practice, as you remember, in Phoenix, Arizona. The practice became very big. We did a lot of clinical trials. The practice was then sold, and I decided I wanted to do something very, very new in my very old age. So I decided to be in industry, which I was always fascinated with.
Some 15 years ago, I had the chance to visit you in Phoenix, Arizona. Right. I know you are currently at the head of ocular therapeutics. Before focusing on retina disease, can you share with us the general properties and applications of your hydrogel platform, whose name is Elitix?
I realized how difficult it was for people to get the treatment. Now the treatment is miraculous because I'm old enough to remember when we had absolutely nothing. But the fact that in the United States alone, and that's the records that I have, in the United States alone, which is supposed to be the richest country in the world, in that country alone, 40% of patients in the first year drop out. They don't take the treatment, they can't, and they end up going blind. We have a known target, we have a known treatment, and if we can have a drug that is more sustainable, it will affect millions and millions of people. What we have here is a completely dissolvable, tunable hydrogel, and that's the technology that we have that will target a known target, which is VEGF.
Can you explain us why for you anti-tyrozine kinase inhibitors are maybe the next frontier for retinal disease treatment?
So to be clear, we're trying to solve two problems here, right? One problem is the obvious one, which we've been talking about, which is the sustainability issue. The fact that there's a number of patients that simply drop out and go blind points to the obvious need for something that's more sustainable. But the other part that we don't talk about very much is the chronic long-term outcomes. Even the people that are able to stay on treatment, when you think about the fact that almost all of them after 2 to 5 years end up being worse than their baseline vision, not because of rebleeding, but because of fibrosis and atrophy, points to the fact that the way we're treating our patients, which is episodically, causes these oscillations in the back of the eye. The fovea gets thick and thin and thick and thin. It's like having multiple concussions in the back of the eye, and that's why they all have fibrosis and lose vision. So the second problem we're solving is if we can treat and suppress on a chronic basis without these oscillations, we'll reduce the amount of fibrosis and we'll have better long-term outcomes. And what the TKIs do is that they inhibit the same target, which is VEGF, but they inhibit the target intracellularly, which may be more efficient than extracellularly. So that's the part that hypothetically may make them even more efficient. But the point is, again, we're trying to solve two problems. The obvious one, which is that of sustainability, and the second one, which is that of chronic, better long-term outcomes. Like there's no floaters, there's no encasement that's left behind, there are no carcasses, there's nothing floating around, it's all completely gone. It's a pan-VEGF receptors, and primarily the one that we know obviously is what the other commercial anti-VEGFs block as well, but it also blocks other VEGF receptors as well. The thing that's important to understand.
Also is a form of VEGF.
Right, it's exactly. It's a pan-VEGF inhibitor, but the part that's really important, I think, is as a small company, what we're doing right now is we're targeting wet AMD. But every single drug that we've known that inhibits VEGF will also work not only in wet AMD, but also in things like diabetic retinopathy, diabetic macular edema, retinal vein occlusion, PCV onwards, and so forth. Now, as a small company, we're starting with wet macular degeneration, but we do have data from our Helios study in diabetic retinopathy and diabetic macular edema as well. So the impact of this drug with a known VEGF inhibitor with a known target is not just wet macular degeneration, but it's all retinal vascular diseases.
It's difficult to know yet if TKI will replace or reinforce the existing treatment.
Yeah, we're still masked, Philippe, as you know, so we don't have the unmasked results yet.
I know.
But from our previous studies, there was no distinction in terms of phenotypes. Everybody responded, as you would expect, because it's a known target, right? The beauty of this, again, is that we're not doing something that's unknown. We're doing something that's better in a known target.
Looking ahead, Pravin, for you, what will be the future of ophthalmology over the next decade?
Well, you know, I'm old enough and lucky enough to have lived through what I think is a miracle, right? When I was in training, we'd watch patients go blind with macular degeneration. Then came Lucentis, and then came Eylea, and these drugs were absolutely miraculous. But we really haven't had that much progress since that time. And as miraculous as these drugs are, and I really do believe they're miraculous, the fact of it is that most of the world is not getting access to these drugs and getting the regular treatment. And that's not just the US, that's even worse than the rest of the world. And for me, as an immigrant, having grown up in Europe, you know, I look at the whole global picture, and what I look forward to for us is we have a known target. As people live longer, these diseases will be even more and more important. And what I look forward to is really being able to impact many, many more people than we've been able to do in the last few decades.
Thank you so much for this interview, and have a great stay in Bordeaux and in France.
Thank you, Philippe. This is an honor and a pleasure. One of my very favorite cities in the world, and how kind of you for this. Thank you so much, and I hope to see everybody and you in person in your next meeting. Thank you.
Sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, Pravin.